Hi, thank you for checking out this tour of standards-based grammar. I'm going to use the grade 4 edition to show you all the features of this program. So if you'd like to take the same tour using another grade level edition and see the worksheets from that edition, just exit this tour and click on one of the other grade levels, and you can take the same tour using worksheets from that grade level of standards-based grammar. In this quick tour, I'm going to show you the features that make this grammar program so powerful. However, there is another tour that gives tips and advice for how to get the most out of this book. The first part of that tips and advice tour will go more in depth on how I teach different worksheets from the different grade levels of standards-based grammar. However, the second part of that tour will show you how to organize your entire writing program to help you incorporate the grammar skills your students are learning from this book into your entire writing program. So if you're interested in this grammar program, I highly recommend checking out that tips and advice video when you have more time. Okay, about this tour. My goal here is to show you that standards-based grammar is powerful enough for you to use as your daily grammar program, but also affordable enough to get if you only need a couple of units. With that in mind, here's a list of the features in standards-based grammar along with the timestamps in case you want to jump ahead to another section. What I'm going to show you is, first, I'm going to cover the worksheets and how they're designed to help you get the most out of your grammar instruction time. You'll also get to see several sample worksheets as well. Next, you'll get to see the extensions, which is a really powerful tool to get your students using the grammar skills in the context of actual writing situations. You'll see how the tests and checklists work together to really supercharge your program. And finally, I'll quickly review the student consumables option, which can save you tons of time in your prep work. So let's begin with the worksheets. Here's a quick look at the table of contents so you can see the standards that are covered. Feel free to click pause if you'd like to take a longer look at the table of contents here, but I'm going to move right into the first worksheet. And that's going to be true for many of the worksheets in this video. I might be jumping very quickly, so just pause if you feel like you want to see it a little longer. So obviously, the worksheets are the heart of the book. So let's take a look at how the worksheets are organized. Now, this is standards-based grammar, so each grammar skill is a standard. And you can see here on this worksheet that the standard is compound sentences. And writing strung sentences is a huge standard in the 4th grade. You're going to see that throughout many of the worksheets. So you can see here on this worksheet, the way this book is organized, the first worksheet of every standard will have a lesson at the top. On this worksheet, there are some main ideas to review here at the top that explain what a compound sentence is. Then a second mini lesson to explain what a compound sentence is not. Having the lesson on the top of the first worksheet for each standard is really helpful for the teacher because it just takes a few seconds to review the skill and you're ready to teach. So when a teacher has so many lessons to teach in a day, just having one lesson ready to go right there at the top, quick review, boom, you're ready to go. It really makes the teacher's life so much easier. I recommend that when you teach a lesson, you annotate the worksheet with the students by highlighting and circling keywords. This will keep the students engaged, it'll keep them with you, and it'll help them focus on what you're trying to explain. Then you'll have the annotations and the lesson from this worksheet to use as a review for the rest of the worksheets on this standard, and the students will have something to go back and look at to help them with the future worksheets. I also recommend that you have the students keep a grammar journal. There will be times when you want to extend the lessons, and the grammar journal is a great place to do this. Also, you're going to see in the next section, the extensions, the students will need a place to practice their extensions and practice their grammar skills in real writing situations. And the grammar journal is a great place to do this as well. In the tips and advice video, I go into much greater detail on how to use this grammar journal. So again, I highly recommend that tips and advice video. Next, after you go over the lesson from the first worksheet, you'll find an activity that starts getting the students comfortable with this new skill. So when you begin a standard, you'll have a lesson and you'll have an activity that gets the students comfortable with this new standard that you're really about to get into. So here on the next worksheet, you can see that this is worksheet number 2 of compound sentences. This worksheet begins with a summary of the lesson they learned on the first worksheet. Here, the students are going to really focus on the parts of a compound sentence. You can see that they're looking for the coordinate conjunction in the sentences, then finding the subjects and predicates on both sides of the coordinate conjunction. I'd have them circle the commas as well to get them used to that. And here's worksheet number 6, and you can see that the goal of having the students be able to use the grammar skill in actual writing situations is happening here. And you'll see later that it happens even stronger in the extensions. So on this worksheet, I'll have the students trade worksheets the next day and have them label the subjects, the verbs, and the complete thoughts in each other's sentences. I'd even have them write the word predicate between the verb and the complete thought just to get the vocabulary burned into their head a little better. Moving on, I'm going to show you a few more worksheets here. Just know you can download more sample worksheets on the Standards-Based Grammar Grade 4 webpage. There's a link in the description you can see there. So if you want to see a little bit more, just click on that link and you can download some samples. So here's simple sentences from earlier in the unit before compound sentences. You can see that in all these worksheets, the students have been learning to identify subjects and predicates for a while. So when they get to compound sentences, it's really easy for them to just focus on coordinate conjunctions and the comma. The next worksheets here are from the unit on the parts of speech. And the students are building on what they learned in the 3rd grade. In the 3rd grade edition, and this edition as well, the students learned visual mnemonic devices to help burn the definitions to the parts of speech into their minds. If they've gone through the 3rd grade edition, then they've already done this, and these worksheets are more of a review. If they haven't, then they're going to learn those same tricks, those same mnemonic devices to help really lock those definitions into their minds. Then following that, there's some fun worksheets like Captain Preposition here to help them have some fun with the worksheets. So by the time they finish the worksheets using these mnemonic devices, they will have full command of the definition of the parts of speech. Next are some worksheets on comma rules. This is one of my favorite units because you get to see so much improvement in the students' sentences right away. When teaching writing, it often takes months to see any real progress in the students' writing. But at the 4th grade level, you can see their sentences transform right away, right in front of you. Because this program not only teaches them where to put the commas, but gives them activities that require them to put these kinds of sentences in their writing. That's why each comma rule has a name, like quotations or compound sentence, appositives, adjectives, lists, dates. When you give a writing assignment, all you need to do is require that they use 2 or 3 comma rules, and the students start getting into the habit of writing these different types of sentences. It really helps them add variety to their sentences. When you have them use the comma rules in their writing, you can mix it up. For one assignment, you might require dialogue and adjectives. Then the next assignment require them to use compound sentences and appositives. That's why giving the comma rules names will give the students the vocabulary they need so that when you say, hey, put adjectives, put dialogue, they know exactly what you're talking about and it goes right into their writing. You'll be shocked at just how good their sentences become in a short amount of time, especially if you combine standards-based grammar with our other books like Writing Tricks Plus or the Complete Writing Program. These books help the students apply not just the comma rules, but dozens of grammar, punctuation, literary devices, and more into their writing. Using them all together makes a really powerful writing program. And if you check out the tips and advice video, it shows you how to put the grammar series with those books all into a structured writing program. So I highly recommend checking that out. Here's a quick look at a couple of worksheets on capitalization. Standards-based grammar grade 4 has a list of 6 capitalization rules. It also has a list of words that shouldn't be capitalized. There's certain categories of words that students will often capitalize that shouldn't be. They're really tricky. Then after this list of capitalization rules, there are plenty of practice worksheets to help them master which words they should capitalize and which words they shouldn't. Finally, the last worksheets that I'm going to show you are from the really fun unit on prefixes and suffixes. The students will learn that a prefix changes the meaning of a word. Then they learn several prefixes and see how they change the definitions of words, like throne would be a place of power, and dethrone would be to take away that power. They can see how just throwing a prefix would completely change a definition of a word. Next, the students learn that suffixes change the part of speech of a word. The meaning of the word will stay the same. The only change that takes place when you add a suffix is how the word is used in a sentence. You can see here on a word like wash, it can be used in all kinds of different parts of speech. It can be used as an adjective, a noun, or even a verb. So they just get familiar with suffixes. And lastly, here's a fun way to challenge the students to internalize the definition of prefixes and suffixes. When I was making these worksheets, I was also doing something called a mad minute in math with the students using their times tables, where they had 1 minute to do all their sixes, then they had 1 minute to do their sevens, and then a minute to do their eights, a minute to do their nines. It worked so well on their times tables that it decided to make a mad minute for prefixes and suffixes. So what you do is you run copies of this worksheet and you cut them into thirds, and each day give them a different third and have them see how many definitions they can put on the paper in just a minute. You can start giving raffle tickets or little prizes for the students who are able to complete the worksheet in a minute. Challenge them to see if they can get more definitions or see if they can do it faster. And it's a fun way to really lock in prefixes and suffixes. Okay, the next feature that I'm going to show you is the extensions, and you'll see some worksheets that have extensions on them. The extensions really take standards-based grammar to a whole new level. Again, the goal of standards-based grammar is to help the student apply grammar skills within the context of actual speaking and writing situations. The extensions are where the magic really happens. After you teach the first worksheet of a standard, many of the follow-up worksheets will have extensions on them. Now, the extension is a small writing assignment where the students are practicing their grammar skills in real writing situations. You can see here on the compound sentence worksheet, when the students finish the activity on the top, there's an extension down at the bottom. You can see in this 10-minute activity that the students are asked to write compound sentences about things their friends do on the playground. They'll do this using the coordinate conjunctions and, but, and or, along with the comma. I do the extensions with the students because doing them with the students gives me so many opportunities to model good writing and point out other writing skills. Again, I go into much more detail about this in the tips and advice video, so I highly recommend that. So very quickly, here's a couple more extensions. There's one for simple sentences where the students practice the more confusing part of predicates, the types of predicates that explain what something is or what some things are. Basically, just learning the 5 to be verbs, is, are, was, were, and am. Here's an extension about the comma rules for writing dialogue. The students need to practice writing dialogue and not just identifying where to put commas and quotation marks. so it gets some practice using it in a real situation. Finally, here's an extension on capitalization, which helps make the students mindful of proper nouns when they write. They come up with sentences about days of the week. Now it says magazines here, but that's a little dated. So maybe change that to something else like YouTube channels or something like that. There are songs, languages, and businesses that they'll practice using capitalization rules for that. So these extensions are really a powerful part of the standards-based grammar program and get the students using the grammar skills in real writing situations. So moving on to the next powerful part of the standards-based grammar program are the tests and checklists. The tests and checklists work together to really supercharge your grammar program. The tests by themselves are just tests. You teach, students learn. How do they do? That's a test. The checklists help turn the test into assessments where you get to see exactly where the students are still struggling and get them the help they need now instead of just saying, oh, well, we got to move on. Hopefully, the next year's teacher can help you get it, but I have to move on. With the checklist, you'll have exact knowledge of the students' weak areas. And these checklists will help you get the students the help they need now instead of just hoping that they get help later. Again, tips and advice video shows you a lot more about how to do that. So the first checklist I'm going to show you is the parent checklist. I know it says student checklist on the top of the paper, but it's really for the parents, so I'm going to call it the parent checklist. The parent checklist goes to work before you even start each unit because you can use the checklist as an overview and give it to the students to review the terms that they're about to start learning. This gives you an opportunity to front load some of the vocabulary, maybe talk about situations where they might use this in real life situations, maybe do some anticipatory sets, and it just gets them ready for what they're about to hear. So not only does this help the students get familiar with the new terms, it also serves as a reminder that when the test is finished, that they are going to take this checklist home and get a parent's signature. So it does raise the student's level of concern right away because after a unit or two, the students are going to see this paper and go, oh, this is the one that's going to get my parent signature, so I better really pay attention to these lessons. Now, the main use of this parent checklist is that it works with the test. So let's take a quick look at a test. You can see that this test is organized into the 4 standards that were on the parent checklist. There's possessive nouns, contractions, helping verbs, and contractions as helping verbs. Now, if the student does well on a standard, here in the test, I put a star. This means that they've mastered the standard. If they don't do so well, I just leave it blank, like on part 2 here, contractions. On this example, the students pass parts 1 and 3, so they get stars. And they didn't pass number 2 and number 4, so it's blank there as well. So on the parent checklist, you'll mark mastery for numbers 1 and 3, and you'll mark non-mastery for numbers 2 and 4. This checklist is part 1 of getting the students the help they need right away for their trouble areas. You can send the parent checklist home for a parent's signature, but you can also send it home with more worksheets, or better yet, a list of websites that offer games or tutorials for grammar skills. Many parents would love to have their children practice the skills they didn't quite get in the class and help them continue practicing these skills at home. It's a great way to partner up with the parents. Some parents may even get a tutor, which would be amazing. And now you're truly a partner with the parents to help get more help for their students and not just abandon them after they take the test. However, before you send the test and checklist home, let's look at another way you can use this parent checklist to help get more help for the students. Now, this here is the student checklist. I keep a copy of this checklist for each student in a file near my desk. And after each test, I'll record the student's results on this checklist. So on this checklist, you can record the student's results here. Then after the test, you can continue to record the results of each test here on the student checklist. It's a great way to keep track of the standards you've taught, as well as a way to keep track of every student's progress all the way to the end of the school year. This is another way to get more help for your students because both the parent and student checklists can be given not only to the parents, but also to support staff at the school. You may have a classroom aide who works with the students, a parent who comes in to help, or an RSP teacher. Sometimes high schoolers will come over to our campus to tutor the students. This gives them something specific to use to help the students with their trouble areas. Many schools have resource teachers. We call them RSP teachers who would love to have this information to help them set goals for the students and give them something to work on during their RSP time. There's so much you can do with the tests and checklists here besides just seeing how did they do on an exam and then just walking away. To wrap up this tour, standards-based grammar's goal is to help the students get complete mastery over all the grammar standards and to help them master it so well that they're actually using these standards to make their speaking and writing better. Hopefully you've seen just how powerful this program can be, but there's even one more way to make this program even stronger, and that's by using student consumables. There are several ways to get information on the student consumables. You can click on the consumables link at the top of the web page and get information that way. You can also click on any edition for standards-based grammar on the home page, which will also take you to a link to download more sample worksheets. Then at the bottom of the page will be ordering information, information on purchase orders, and information on the student consumables. Finally, remember there is a video where I show more tips and advice for using standards-based grammar. In that video, along with the tips and advice for the lessons in standards-based grammar, are 3 strategies for teaching your entire writing program that can really change your life. I highly recommend it. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and go create better writers.
CreateBetterWriters.com